Our top lead this evening, ladies and gentlemen. This month, every week, we have seen an incremental move towards ushering in the Uniform Civil Code in India. First, the Law Commission asked people for their opinion. That process is still underway. Then the Prime Minister batted for it in poll-bound Madhya Pradesh. And now, the hill state of Uttarakhand is ready with its UCC draft. Will the Uttarakhand model form the basis of UCC in India? Well, there is much talk of the UCC being introduced in the monsoon session of Parliament. If it happens, then the tone and tenor for the 2024 general elections will be set. Today, the Uttarakhand state panel that was given the responsibility of coming up with a draft submitted their recommendations. In a press conference, the panel said that more than 2 lakh people in the state gave them their views on what the UCC in the state should look like. Now, the panel in its presser did not spell out any details on what is in the draft. But intrepid reporters speaking to sources have culled out some very interesting details that have the potential to blow up into a raging debate. Debates are good, and as far as UCC is concerned, consensus is a must. But for a moment, just look at the suggestions in the Uttarakhand draft. Let's put those out for our viewers. First things first. The government is putting its lens on live-in relationships. No, live-ins aren't being banned, but the government says if your parents don't know that you're in a live-in relationship, we will ensure that they do. Sounds like a complete intrusion of privacy. Then the draft says that all marriages will be registered, which is good. Polygamy and halala will be hacked, which again is very good. The age of marriage for women will be raised to 21 for all communities. And this draft says that all can adopt. In this all, do they even mean LGBT plus couples? That will be interesting to know. And very interestingly, there will be a cap on kids for those who want to avail government schemes, which means more than 2 children and you cannot avail government schemes. A quick caveat here, these are draft proposals that may or may not be accepted by the Uttarakhand state government. But even before that happens, there's a raging debate in the country on the aim and feasibility of the UCC. In such a diverse country, where even Hindus' personal laws can differ. Even within the Hindu community, our personal laws differ. Can uniformity work? We talk about that in just a bit, but first let's hear from the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand.
यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड का ड्राफ्ट बनाने वाली कमेटी वो कमेटी ने 1 साल से अधिक समय से लोगों के बीच में जाके काम किया है। 2 लाख से भी ज़्यादा लोगों से बात की है और अनेकों स्टेक होल्डरों से भी उसने बात की है। बात करने के बाद उनका ड्राफ्ट तैयार हो रहा है। ड्राफ्ट लगभग पूरा होने की ओर है। जैसे ही हमको ड्राफ्ट मिलेगा हम उसका अवलोकन करेंगे। हमारे जो इस विषय के जानकार हैं उन सभी से चर्चा करेंगे, बात करेंगे। उसके बाद जो आगे की कार्रवाई होती है उसको आगे की कार्रवाई में बढ़ाएंगे।
It gives me immense pleasure to inform you that the drafting of the proposed Uniform Civil Code of Uttarakhand is now complete. The report of the expert committee, along with the draft code, would soon be printed and submitted to the government of Uttarakhand. And I can tell you that will be very soon.
कुल मिलाकर 2,31,000 से कुछ अधिक रिटन सबमिशंस प्राप्त हुए
और मिले
कमेटी को। इसके अलावा जो उप समिति और समिति के लोग जब बाहर गए, लोगों से उन्होंने इंटरेक्ट किया तो लगभग 20,000 लोगों से बातचीत की।
Now, does the BJP have enough political support in the country to push through the UCC? Well, in Parliament, in the Lok Sabha, they certainly have the numbers. In the Rajya Sabha, it could get a little tricky, but there are already 2 parties, the Aam Aadmi Party and the NCP, that have offered conditional support. And you have the Uddhav Sena, which has come out in support of the BJP as far as a UCC in the country is concerned. Let me go across to someone who understands the law well and is a strong and articulate voice as far as the UCC debate is concerned. Congress MP Manish Tewari, also a Supreme Court lawyer. Mr. Tewari, thank you very much for your time. Very quickly, Prime Minister Modi for the first time now has spoken about the UCC in a public forum. You have the Law Commission that has asked for opinions of people, various people across this country. You have the Uttarakhand draft that is now ready. What can possibly be the problem if the UCC comes into play in our country?
Well, the Article 44 of the Constitution of India is aspirational in character. It's a directive principle of state policy. It is not mandatory. Had it been mandatory, it would have been a part of the fundamental rights. So neither is the directive principles of state policy, nor is our fundamental duties mandatory. Number two, in a country where you celebrate diversity, where is this uniformity, or how is this uniformity going to strengthen your internal cohesion as a society? I represent a constituency where the Khalsa Panth was founded. Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, on the 13th April 1699, founded the Khalsa Panth. I would like to ask the government, if you have a uniform civil code, where does that leave the Akhand Marriage Act, under which the Sikh marriages are solemnized, which has been passed by Parliament? And in any case, in the Hindu faith itself, there are a myriad ways in which marriages are solemnized, succession and inheritance happens. In any case, in the Indian legal pantheon, there is already a self-contained uniform civil code. That is the Special Marriages Act and the Indian Succession Act. So therefore, if somebody wants to subscribe to a uniform civil code, all that he needs to do is get married under the Special Marriages Act, like I did, and you are governed then by a secular, a religious agnostic, marriage law, and the sequel to that is the Indian Succession Act. So there is already a uniform civil code in the Indian law.
But one of the arguments that is being made is by people who are supporting the Uniform Civil Code. They are saying, what's the harm? A, and B, more than anything else, this is about gender justice, that you don't have girls who will be forced to get married at the age of 15 or 16, that Catholic women will find it easier to get a divorce, and Muslim women will not have to deal with something like polygamy.
Any reform in personal laws should be an impulse which should come from within those communities. I do not see any support for the Uniform Civil Code beyond certain people in the BJP talking about it ad nauseum. As I said, if you study the Hindu Marriage Act, you study the Hindu Succession Act, or you study the Maintenance Act, right? There is, as I said, there is so much of diversity within that. You cannot even bring uniformity out there. What to talk about bringing uniformity into religions? And if you want to talk about secular, non-agnostic parts of the law, you have 125 of the Civil Procedure Code, which governs maintenance, right? I talked about the Indian Succession Act and the Special Marriages Act 1954 earlier. So therefore, if you actually were to take these three together, the Special Marriages Act, the Indian Succession Act, and 125 of the CPC, which governs maintenance, you have a uniform civil code already.
Okay, that's one point of view. We'll leave it there for the moment, Mr. Tewari. Thank you very much. Let me also introduce my guest to you this evening. Rami Desai is an author. She's also a political analyst joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Zeenat Ali is an Islamic scholar. She joins us on the show. Zeba Yasmeen is spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. And we have KV Dhananjay, advocate of the Supreme Court. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of this show. Dr. Zeenat Ali, as a Muslim woman, are you willing to engage with the UCC? Because, many people can turn around, many of our viewers thinking viewers can turn around and tell us, Are bhai, what are you even discussing? Where is the draft? What do we know what is going to be in the UCC before we start debating? At least you should know what is in the draft. We don't know what's going to be in the center's draft. We mota know what is going to be in the Uttarakhand draft. Having heard all of that, Dr. Ali, do you think as an Islamic scholar, Muslim women will be at least willing to engage, I'm not saying agree, but engage with the Uniform Civil Code as and when the government introduces it?
Thank you for inviting me to the show. I think that Muslim women will engage and Muslim women will be happy with it because there is the Uniform Civil Code is also concentrating on gender justice. It has already been pointed out by the Honorable Minister who was on the show that the Special Matters Act also has certain has a sort of a legal code, a law that already exists, and so is the Succession Act. But this is going to be something that is going to be common and it is going to be implemented as a compulsory law for all of us. And the first thing I would like to say that the introduction of this means that in one country we have one law that rules all of us. It has been the aspiration of the founding fathers of the Constitution. It has been discussed, it has been umpteen times over the years, over the decades, though there has been a lot of angst, religious angst, and there has been a lot of misunderstanding and miscomprehension about this law. But I do think that, that the Muslim women will support this law simply because that everything that it contains is not against Islam. It is only endorsing what Islam is saying. Islam does not endorse polygamy. It does not enforce polygamy. It was a clause in those days. And in the same verse, it is saying in the Quran that in Surah number 4, verse number 127, that you cannot deal justly between your wives. So the question does not exist, that the Muslim women would want that a polygamy to be a clause. And similarly, there was no such thing as triple talaq. And over the years, you have find that the Sharia law as it exists even today, even the traditional law over the countries, over the centuries, has undergone tremendous changes in different parts of the world. And even a country like Pakistan, which is so redundant and backward in other things, has come up with an alternative law which gives gender justice. So I think this particular law concentrating on gender justice, and of course, when you come to the actual definition of what the Uttarakhand Code says, I have a couple of questions out there, but largely that if India, we have one country, we have one law, which is a gender just law, which is the aspiration and expressed in Article 44 of the Directive Principles of the state. So I don't see why there should be any objection, and I don't think that the Muslim women will have any objection.
Okay, Zeba Yasmeen, should Muslim women have any objection to the UCC? Because Dr. Ali is saying that why are you pitching UCC as anti-Muslim? It's not anti-Muslim. Muslim personal law to some extent is patriarchal. There are things, there are things like the halala, for example, which should not be accepted in any civilized society, which continues to be a practice in Islam. All of this needs to go. Muslim women, she says, will be willing to engage with it because it's more about gender justice than about targeting a particular religion. Would you agree with her, Yasmeen?
See, whenever it is for the betterment of a female or male, nobody can be against, be it the ruling party or the opposition. As we were talking, why people are thinking that the UCC is against minority, it is nothing. When any law is being made in India, it is for everybody. Why it is, we are not saying it is targeting Muslim. From the PM speech, it was mentioned that minorities are being, misguided. It was targeted by PM speech only. We are not mentioning it. We are just saying that draft is not ready, so it is too early to discuss about it. Let's wait for the pointers, what has been mentioned in the UCC norms, and then we can discuss it further. Because the intentions of BJP, if we see, so we doubt the intention. because this Alpsankyak minority word has been used by the PM. So we targeting Muslims, otherwise
Okay.
Muslim,
Okay.
if you talk about triple talaq, halala, even educated female like us, even I being a Muslim, I'm sitting here debating. So it is not that Muslims are very conservative, they are not giving importance to education, they are not willing to change. We have changed a lot, and laws which were not in our favor, we, spoke about it. So we are itself changing. I mean, this triple talaq, ये तो वैसे भी बहुत लोगों को तो नॉलेज ही नहीं है किस क्लॉजेस में, एज मैम जीनत मैम ने मेंशन किया कि
नहीं, वो
पॉलीगैमी
मैं
हो,
समझ गई,
ट्रिपल तलाक हो,
वो मैं समझ गई
किस
ज़ेबा।
उसके साथ क्लॉजेस जो मेंशन है उसको
ज़ेबा
उसकी
मैं
भी
समझ गई,
जानकारी लेनी चाहिए।
लेकिन देखिए हलाला है, पॉलीगमी है, ट्रिपल तलाक तो खैर अब नहीं रहा, लेकिन हलाला है, पॉलीगमी है, ये तो मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ का अभी भी हिस्सा है ना। When the UCC comes, all of this will go. I mean, if you look at, again, we don't have a draft. You're absolutely right. So many people can say you're debating in thin air. We, yes, don't have a draft, but we have now a basic draft of the Uttarakhand UCC and what the Uttarakhand UCC is going to look like. And they are talking about halala. They are talking about polygamy, and they are saying that that will definitely go. You are saying you don't have a problem with the UCC. Let's wait for the draft. Let's wait for the content, and then let's talk about it. But you are saying आपको बीजेपी की नीयत पे शक है. Rami Desai, as an author and a political analyst, can I ask, and as someone who is backing the UCC, of course, the more fundamental, the more extreme elements in Islam will come out and say this is anti-minority. The UCC is anti-Muslim. We have two Muslim ladies here, and both of them don't seem to think so. But the one thing in question definitely is the timing and the niyat.
Shreya, good evening, and thank you for having me on the show. I have known Dr. Zeenat for a while now, and she's possibly one of the best scholars in the country. So when she says this, it comes with a lot of merit. The problem is that we have become so politically sensitive that the opposition in this country feels that their job is to oppose everything that comes out. यहाँ नियत की बात कैसे आती है when it was in the manifesto in 2019, the BJP's manifesto. So, they've always made it very clear that this has been their intention. Even then, things have been said like Jairam Ramesh said that this is a step towards polarization. Karti Chidambaram said that this is a bit to divide the country. These are things that these are sweeping statements that are made for for political motives, because like the lady before me rightly said that we haven't even seen the draft. Yes, we have the basic suggestive draft in Uttarakhand, and that also I am sure will be debated, because they anyway took into consideration hundreds of thousands of people's recommendations to make the draft. So it's not as if this is a final format of it, I'm sure there will be more deliberations over this. But having said that, to have this sort of constantly be pointing a finger at based on intentions and based on how it's going to communally divide the country. I mean, really, some of the people saying this, I find it quite ludicrous, because the Shah Bano case gave away how much Congress thinks about Muslim women. There were similar objections like this even during triple talaq, and we all are witness to how it was welcomed, and how that was a great step towards the betterment of women and Muslim women, of course. So these are things I think are made political issues out of, because that's what the opposition in this country thinks that they need to do. It's not very constructive, but it is what it is. But I think when it comes to the Uttarakhand draft, which you gave us a brief of, I think there will be further deliberations. I think the ruling dispensation does realize that this is a very important move, and that it will rile a lot of people. It may rile certain sections of communities. I fear that it may rile up clerics who fear losing control in Muslim affairs. it might rile up, obviously, the opposition. So I think they're going to take these steps with a lot of thought. And I
Okay.
don't think we should fear it just yet.
So
I think,
here's the thing.
there's going to be enough time for further deliberations.
Here's the thing. Any debate on the UCC often gets reduced to a Hindu-Muslim debate. Honestly, a debate on the UCC is way beyond the Hindu-Muslim debate because there is a great diversity at play. For example, tribals in the Northeast, there are some 10 to 12 crore tribals. They have their own set of personal laws. They don't care what your law is going to be and what law the parliament is going to pass. They have their laws that have carried with them for generations and generations. Will they be willing to change that? Important. It's not just it's not just Muslims. It's Christians as well. It's Jains as well. It's Sikhs as well, because they have a separate marriage act as well. So it's really not just about Hindus and Muslims. Within the Hindus, forget Hindu Musalman. Within Hindus, every community has a different way of getting married. We have a different set of personal laws. Can this diversity be negotiated by one single law, Rami Desai, is the question. But I want to, for a moment, focus on the Uttarakhand draft as well. Because my fear is, looking at the draft, there are some very sensible points there, but looking at the draft, especially some provisions on live-in relationships, my fear is, I hope this is not an exercise in morality. क्योंकि आप यहाँ क्या कह रहे हैं? What is the and I'd like Shaukat Ali ji to come in as well. यहाँ पे Uttarakhand का जो draft, again, just a draft, is saying what? It is saying, look, live-ins, perfectly fine, but you have to inform your parents. And if you don't inform your parents, the state government will do it.
Would you like me to comment on that?
Something like that, even featuring in a draft. I would like to let Rami come in, and then Dr. Ali, maybe you could come in. Rami, would you have any comments to offer on that?
Of course, Shreya, it's a complete invasion of privacy. That's why, I mentioned earlier, and you're completely right, I work on tribal issues as well, but I think if we've looked, let me get to that point first, that if we've looked at the way the central government has made tribal issues a center point of a lot of their policies. Let's look at the Northeast, how it's kept the Northeast very central to its policies. I think they would have taken all of this into consideration. But like I said, we'll have to wait to see when the draft comes out. But having said that, with the Uttarakhand draft, this question of, we are going to inform your parents is completely uncalled for. This is complete invasion of privacy. And I think it is not a very well thought out suggestion. But yet it's just a suggestion. This is a draft framework, and I am sure, because I have heard that the amount of recommendations that they have taken in, which seems like a great sample size in the state, I think this draft, before it's finalized, will also give us the space to give our opinions, and they will have further deliberations on this. But I don't think the state has any business in taking either moral stance or taking liberties with what people would want to disclose in their personal lives or not, until and unless it has something to do with the people involved, or either one of them being involved being not adults. I think that would be the only suggestion that would make this,
Okay.
that would make this
No,
draft
I think,
a little acceptable.
I think I know where the suggestion is.
Sorry.
Dr. Ali, I think I know where the suggestion is actually coming from. When the entire Shraddha Walkar murder case was playing out, one of the things that was being said was that, when people are in toxic relationships, the girl usually cuts off from the family, there is no support infrastructure, and, then things suddenly take a very tragic turn. I think, at least I think this is their attempt to address that concern as far as women and their security is concerned. But Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, would you want to come in here as far as, again, the larger question is not about live-ins and whether the government should or should not inform parents of live-in partners that they are living in, that their children are living in. The larger question is, a fear that the entire exercise as far as the UCC is concerned, could become a moralistic one, which would be self-defeating, if you ask me.
No, I think it would be, more moralistic and, other points I concede to. But I think it is very important from the legal point of view also, because after all, you see, marriage, when you enter into a live-in relationship, what does it mean? It means that you are living in a kind of an undeclared marriage, which is actually giving you no rights, one over the other. What does a contract of marriage mean? What is what are we looking at? If we're looking at females and we are looking at gender justice, we are looking at that the girl should not be deprived, that she should get her rights, and marriage itself, and gives her certain rights. Now, how those rights are going to play out and how we are going to frame them, that is another question. But when it comes to the protection of the child, of the girl, interference of a parent, or informing a parent, are two different things. So you see, if there is a love marriage, for example, if there is a love relation between a couple, and the parents are informed about it, but should the parents interfere, or should the parents take a kind of a lead that we have seen in in annulling and in breaking up these relationships? That is the question, and I think that is something that one cannot argue for, because yes, inform to protect the girl, to know who she's living with and what is happening in her life, but to interfere and to impose, that I think would be out of the range of any of the government, of any marriage contract of this kind that we're looking at, of the Uniform Civil Code.
Okay, let's see how.
There are two ways of looking at this. One is,
let's see how it plays
the
out.
information, when a marriage is registered, for example, when we are talking about the registration of a marriage, what are we saying? We are saying that we know that X is married to Y, and we know that there is that is in existence. But but sometimes what happens is that nobody else knows of its existence within the family, and that can create a problem for the girl. But at the same time, I think imposition and interference, that should not be there.
Okay. So, let's see how it plays out. We don't know how this is going to play out. The government is talking about, sources within the government are talking about introducing a bill on the UCC in Parliament in the monsoon session. If that happens, then the monsoon session is certainly going to be a stormy one. But what's important for all of us to, I think, know is that we still don't have a draft from the Government of India. The Law Commission is still in the process of assimilating and collating all kinds of opinions as diverse as possible. So baby steps, I would say. 2024 is still a long way to go. We'll leave it there for the moment. Dr. Ali, thank you very much for joining us. Zeba Yasmeen, good to have you on the show. Rami Desai, good to have you on the show as well. On that note, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show.